Welcome back to another episode of the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Jones, the Bluff City Cowboy, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee. And we are officially in our last preseason week of NFL camp. So we have our third preseason game coming up this Friday against the New Orleans Saints. And then we will be locked and loaded for the start of the NFL season. So thank you, everybody who's been joining us so far through our preseason / training camp journey. I hope you guys learned a lot from what we talked about. I definitely appreciate all of your support and all the dialogue that we've had over the past couple of weeks. But real football is almost here. So, got to get through this last week and then we'll be ready to rock and roll. So, before we get started, I see we got a couple people already in the comments. So, we got Jeff joining, longtime follower. You guys saw him on the show with me last week. So, Jeff, thank you for joining. Special Potion 5387. Haven't seen you in a while, Special Potion. So thank you for coming back and joining us on the Fifth Quarter Podcast. And then we got another very long time viewer in Jack Meeker. Thank you for joining, Jack. Doing well tonight. Hope you and your family are doing the same. See, we got quite a few people joining us from the Facebook group. So thank you guys for joining us. For those of you who have not joined, be sure to go on Facebook, type in DC4L. It's a group about 20,000 strong. We have a very dedicated admin group. We monitor the page to make sure there's no bullying, no hate speech. We try to make sure that it is a safe space for Cowboys fans. I see we got quite a few people joining us from YouTube, so thank you guys. For those of you watching from Facebook, if you haven't done so already, make sure you go over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, help us on our path to 1,000 subscribers. And as you guys know, this is an interactive show, so be sure put your questions, put your comments in the chat. I'll be sure to put as many as I can up. Most nights I normally hit all of them, but I try my best to get most of them. I see Special Potion has been in college, but we definitely appreciate you joining us tonight. Hope you can find the time to join us going forward. So tonight's show, we're going to talk a little bit about the second preseason game, and then we will talk 53-man roster. So basically, I'm going to give you guys what I think will be my final 53-man roster. You guys can feel free to add on whatever you like. Give me your thoughts on it. I mean, Jeff, I'm not a YouTube guy, to be honest. I really just do this because I enjoy doing it. I rarely look at my YouTube page. I'll try to find a second to check before the show ends to see how many subscribers I have. I really don't do that to get subscribers. I just really appreciate the conversation with you guys, and I appreciate you guys who join me every week to talk Cowboys football. All right, so and I'll get that to you by the end of the show, Jeff. So let's go ahead quickly. Let's talk second preseason game. Sorry, I don't have any pretty slides for you guys, but had a lot going on, so we can just kind of talk through it. We'll start first on the offensive side of the ball. The one thing that stood out to me, Malik Davis is definitely going to be the backup. Again, there's just a different level of patience and explosiveness when you look at Malik Davis play. He's obviously their best pass blocker when it comes to third down situations, and he's the best special teamer. So you add all that stuff together, and you got a guy who's definitely going to be on the roster. He may not be number 3, but he may not be number 2, but he's definitely going to be a guy who's on the roster. Special teams alone, because I noticed watching them play, he was the personal protector. And if you guys watch this show, I tell you, whoever's the gunner, the jammer, and the personal protector, I don't care what position they play. I don't care who's on the bubble. Those guys are making the roster. So Malik Davis is definitely going to be one of our backups at the running back position. Jack Meeker says Blue is better, but not far enough along to be that full-time backup. I haven't had a chance to watch Blue as a pass blocker. I've seen Malik Davis pass block a couple times, look pretty good. Um, and I think Blue may be more explosive, but Davis is a more patient runner to get those tough yards. I haven't seen Blue really get tough yards. I've seen him hurdle a guy and make a couple of splash plays, but you can't live off splash plays as the backup. When it's 1st and 10, we need you to get 4. You can't be -1 or 15. We need 4 yards. If it's second and 3, 3rd and 3, we need 3 yards. I don't know if Blue can get those tough yards yet because I haven't seen him with the starters for one, and in a real game, I haven't really seen it either. He kind of still has that tendency where he just lowers his head and just runs full speed, doesn't really follow his blockers or show the patience to wait for a hole to develop. But I think he's good enough to be a third running back. Um, Phil Maffa in that game, he only had 1 carry, and it was for a touchdown, so I give him credit for that. But when you're in the second preseason game and you're a 235-pound running back and they have you doing kickoff return, that's not a good sign for your position on the roster. So combine that with the fact that he only had 1 carry the whole game. We'll talk about that once we get to the 53-man roster, but I think I pretty much said all I need to say about that running back position. Drew Shelton, in terms of the offensive line, Drew Shelton looked terrible. He only had 6 plays, but on all 6 plays, he got whooped. It was not pretty. If you guys get a chance to go back and watch Drew Shelton, it was not pretty as a left tackle. Nate Thomas looked a little bit better at right tackle than he did at left tackle last week. I think Nate is going to be your swing tackle, but he's definitely looks better at right than left so far. The center, Nick Leverett, to me, had another very solid game. We don't have a true backup center. I know the fans are still talking about TJ Bass. I think TJ Bass is your swing guard. I think Nick Leverett, after these last 2 weeks, has kind of solidified himself as the number 2 center. No botch snaps. Look like he's making the protection calls. Doing a great job of getting to the second level on blocks. I even saw him pull once or twice on some trap plays. So he has a little bit of athleticism. So to me, I think Nick Leverett's going to be a lock. Really good game by him. We can talk about Camden Brown till we're blue in the face. We all saw it. Another big game. Had 1 possession catch, and then he had another explosive play where he took advantage of the safety, not paying attention to his keys, got open on kind of a scramble drill, and took it 60 yards. Now, one negative I will say about Camden Brown is on that play, the lack of speed really was prevalent on that play because he was wide open, and that should have been an easy touchdown. But because he doesn't have 4.5 speed, that safety was able to kind of catch up to him and stop him at the 1-yard line. Now, to me, that's not enough for him not to be on the roster, but it's definitely something that you got to keep in mind moving forward when you talk about building out your roster. Mingo, another solid game, big touchdown. Jeff asked the question, what's his speed? I believe at his pro day, he ran a 4.64, if I'm not mistaken. I'll check right now really quick, but I'm almost certain he ran a 4. It was a 4.61, Jeff. He ran a 4.61 at his pro day. So, yeah, that's not good for a receiver, but he has the size, he has the catch radius, and it seems like he just makes plays. So I think that's going to be enough to get him on the team. But that 4.6 is something that's definitely going to hinder him going forward. Unfortunately, as much as I like the player, running a 4.6 in the NFL, I don't think he'll ever be anything more than a wide receiver 4 or a guy that you hope in some spot coverage with other good players around him, he can make a couple plays. That's kind of his ceiling. I don't think we found the next Flanoy out of Camden Brown. But another solid outing from both Mingo and Brown. Joe Milton had another great game. Poised in the pocket, didn't lose his composure when he had to go outside the pocket. Made several really good touch passes, which has been something that's been a problem for him for the past year or so. Touch passes on underneath passes and touch passes deep. Threw a couple of good screen passes. So his game is really developing right before our eyes. Shows some mobility as well. I think personally he's kind of solidified himself as that quarterback too. Um, I know people are saying that there's still kind of a competition between Howell and Milton. To me, I would agree with that, but based on where they are in their careers, I would give the nod to Milton. Gives you the strong arm, gives you the mobility. Milton right now looks better than Sam Howell did at that same point in time in their careers. That's what I would say about that. Um, Pretty much offensively, that's all that stood out. And again, this is an interactive show, so if anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to get in the chat, and I'll definitely address them whenever I can. I saw your question, Jack Meeker. I'll talk about that in a second as well. So let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. Defense. Siobhan Revel played one snap, got an interception. The play was really made by Jay Sean Barham, but you got to give Revel credit. When you're a DB, if you get your hands on the ball, you got to make the play, and he did it. So kudos to him for that. The star of the defense by far was Barham. I mean, the kid was all over the place. He looked solid in coverage. What really stood out to me is his ability to diagnose. I know people are going to talk about the plays he made, but what's more important to me than the plays that he made is his ability to diagnose them as a rookie. Some of the plays he made are plays that you will see third or fourth year linebackers make, like that first down run where he noticed that the guard was looking inside and he did kind of a dip and rip, took the guard's outside shoulder, got small, and made the tackle in the backfield. That was a veteran play. Um, a rookie linebacker would have just ran through the A gap and took that guard on head on and either made the tackle or at least clogged the hole. Barham made a veteran play where he went and made the tackle. Um, there was a play in space where the receiver caught the ball, but you could see Barham reading the quarterback's eyes, and he diagnosed the route. And another thing, one of his drawbacks, he's not the most athletic guy in space, but he saw the receiver and he went to the play. He just wasn't fast enough to make a play on the ball, but he did make the tackle. So he cut off a play that could have been a 7-yard gain to a 4-yard gain. And this is a game of inches. That means a lot. Then you go back and look at the play with Siobhan Revel when he got the interception. Barham was in coverage and he kind of misdirected the wide receiver enough to make him fall. Those are things that don't stand out on the stat book that veterans do. And then you look at, there was one play where there was a deep pass and he blasted the A gap and he got pressure on the quarterback on third down to make sure that it wasn't a completion. So, I mean, Barham, he looks like the total package so far. Got to give him respect for how he's playing. I love the post-game interview where he says, I hate every team. I'm here to play. That's what you want to hear from your linebacker. A guy that never smiles, all about business, and he backs it up on the field. So I think we really got one. Jack Meeker says, yeah, the 55 does fit him. I got to get one of those jerseys too. I think that's going to be his number. Barham is short on the nameplate than Van Der Esch. Yeah, kind of nitpicking, but yeah, I would have loved to seen Rover get a pick six on that also. But again, got to take what we can get at this point. He did make a play on the ball, and that's the difference between a starter and a Pro Bowler taking it to the house. But yeah, got to get that conditioning up also. He's missed a lot of time, so that will come as the season progresses. We got Bobby D. Mann joining us. Looks like a new name. Looks like you're joining us from the DC4L Facebook group. So thank you, Bobby. Welcome to the DC4L group. Make sure you come back and join us again. Barham is a beast. Should probably be Overshown and Barham starting. Let Winters, James, and Barron back them up. I would probably give that a couple of weeks. You got to watch Winters. I'll say that. Winters deserves the start. I think you'll probably see Winters and Barham before you see Overshown and Barham, in my opinion, because Overshown's going to miss some games. It's inevitable. But yeah, on first downs, I don't care which one you take out. I want Barham on the field. Yeah, he gives the defense attitude, something we've been missing for a while. I've been tweeting for the past 2 days. I can't wait for week 1 to see Barham versus Scatterboo in the A-gap. That's going to be electric because it's probably going to happen early because Scatterboo loves running with his head down in the hole. And I can't wait to see Barham waiting for him and see what happens. So it's giving you guys an early look at one of my key matchups in week 1, Barham versus Scatterboo. Okay, let me see. Anybody else on defense stand out? Nobody else really stood out. Elijah Clark had another solid game. When you don't hear your safety's name called, that's always a good game. Elijah Clark played the whole game, so didn't hear his name called. So that's going to be a plus for him in that competition. Yeah, I don't know. Is there anybody that I missed that you guys want me to talk about? Those were kind of the ones that stood out to me in week 2 on offense. Joe Milton, the receivers, Davis, Drew Shelton in a bad way, Nick Leverett at center. Then on defense, Revel, Barham, and Elijah Clark. All right, if anybody else has a thought, feel free to put it in the comments. I didn't get to watch the practice tonight in full, Jack Meeker. I was busy at Bible study, but I was able to kind of dip my head in and out. Jack Meeker says, watch practice tonight. Vaughn was again working with Lawrence during practice, trying to help him get his hands, it looked like. That's what he's brought here for. He's going to be a on-the-sideline mentor. And I think he's going to pay dividends. He's probably going to have to start a game or 2 for us because I don't trust Ezraku to stay healthy. But I love him as a mentor for Lawrence. I love him as a mentor for Ezraku. I love him as just another veteran presence on the field and on the sidelines because we've got Clark and Williams, but you really need a veteran at every level. So I see we got 2 people. Jeff saying Wood had a decent game. Bobby Mann saying Wood was balling until he got hurt. Wood's been having a solid camp. I think you guys are going to hate when I start doing my 53-man roster, what I have to say. But he's definitely been having a really solid camp. All right, so again, I didn't really get to watch the practice tonight. I watched about maybe 20, 25 minutes of it. What did stand out to me was on the offensive side of the ball. Wow, Terrence Steele. It's Terrence Aluminum season. He looked bad on every rep. Uh, we're gonna have to protect him during the regular season because he is far and away gonna be our weak link on our offensive line. I'm excited to see that Tyler Guyton appears to be stepping up. I didn't see a bad snap from him. Um, for the most part, he won every battle or it was a draw, but I didn't see him get beat, so that's a plus. Um, I really like what I saw from Flournoy. The confidence level is high. Jeff brought this up to me when we were talking. He looks smooth. Like he runs a 4.39, 4.41. You can see it now because he's playing with confidence. So everything just looks crisp and smooth and like he's a starter and he knows he belongs. Confidence levels really high. I like what Jake Ferguson has been showing and Brevin Span forward. Those guys are going to get a lot of mismatches. And so far in practice, they've been trying to take advantage of them. Defensive side of the ball, I really like what I've seen from our linebackers. All the ones who are playing doing really good. It was good to see Von Miller get out there and get a couple of reps. Ezra Raku looks like he's healthy. I'm just really excited to see what we got when we get to the regular season. Jack Meeker says, good thing we have all these good receivers so our tight ends can support Steele. That's a great point. And all of our tight ends are really good blockers. So that's another positive as well. Our tight ends are going to stay on the right side of the line pretty much 99% of the time because you got to help Steele. If he looks in the regular season the way he's looked so far, you got to give him help. Yeah, great point, Jeff. All our linebackers play C-ball, get ball. We got some guys who know how to read plays for once, and it's really going to pay off. Bobby D. Mann, Taylor Decker is still available. It seems OT is our biggest concern. What do you think? I'm right there with you. What I think is going to happen, though, Bobby Mann, you're going to have a guy like Taylor Decker. You're going to bring him in on the practice squad because he hasn't practiced all season. So you can't just throw him in on your starting roster. So you're going to see a guy. Taylor Decker's a good option. There's going to be a couple of guys that get cut. There's a tackle from the Jets I think will probably get cut. Let me see. The Jaguars, there's a tackle that maybe get cut. So I think we're going to bring a tackle in on the practice squad, and then we'll just call him up 3 or 4 weeks to see what he has, and then we'll decide if we want to put him on the roster. But I think a tackle move is definitely coming. I don't think it'll be a 53-man roster tackle. I think it'll be more of a practice squad guy, and then you figure out in a month how you get him on the roster if you need to. But great comment. That's definitely a name we've talked about quite a bit. So that's a guy who's definitely on our radar that we're watching. Okay. We're at 25 minutes. Let's go ahead and jump into my final 53-man roster. I've done a lot of thinking about this. I've been moving stuff around for the past 48 hours. I've come down to a roster that I think is probably going to be the one that we have. And unfortunately, I think a lot of you guys are not going to like some of the cuts that I had to make. But again, this is a part of the process. And just because a guy gets cut does not mean he's off the team. The practice squad is no longer a 4-letter word. The practice squad, since they've allowed veterans to be on the practice squad, it is a great way to extend your main roster. I see we got Lee Harrison joining us. Appreciate you joining, Lee. Longtime viewer. Definitely appreciate your support. Jeff says, do you still think a free agent running back will be brought in? I absolutely think a running back is going to be brought in, Jeff. Again, I think it's going to be a practice squad guy, um, or it's going to be after the 53-man roster is put together. Because if you don't have a guy on your 53 week one, his salary is not guaranteed. Um, I think I think James Conner's still in play. James Conner, if you look at the Cardinals, I talked about this a couple of times. The Cardinals right now have the most expensive backfield in the NFL, and they are projected to only win 3 games. That does not sound like a team that's going to be stockpiling running backs. Jeremiah Love is making $13 million a year as a 4th overall pick rookie. Tyler Algier as a backup is making $6 million a year. That's starter money for 20 out of 32 teams. So you're $20 million in your backfield. And then you add in James Conner, who's making $3 million. And by the way, James Conner has not practiced the entire offseason. So do you think with them having 2 young running backs making $20 million combined, they're going to give a veteran who's injury prone and is your 3rd running back, you think they're going to pay him $3 million? I don't see it. I think they're going to cut James Conner because I don't think he'll trade because he hasn't been cleared to practice yet. So I think they're going to cut him. And hopefully we'll be at the top of his wish list of teams to join. Bam Knight also looks really good. And James Conner does not play special teams. Your 3rd running back cannot be a guy who doesn't play special teams. I hate to be the special teams guy, but the facts are the facts. 30 years old, injured, injury prone, $3 million and doesn't play special teams, he's not going to be on their roster week 1. I'll give you another name, Jeff, that I've been kind of paying attention to. Tyrone Tracy for the Giants. Their backfield, Jack Meeker, the kid they already cleared waivers and revert to Arizona, that's Trey Benson. Yeah. He's on their IR. He's going to get cut too. I don't know when, but they're definitely going to cut Trey Benson because he's making $1.5 million and he's injured right now. I doubt they pay $1.5 million to keep a guy on injured reserve who's going to be a free agent next year. So at some point in the next 3 days, Trey Benson is going to get an injury settlement and he'll be a free agent. I guarantee it. Now, if he's available, that's a guy I put on my practice squad also. So I'm watching Connor and Benson. I'm also watching Tyrone Tracy. This concept I brought up on this show quite a bit in the offseason, one of these things is not like the other. When you look at a team and you look at a certain position, if everybody except one guy looks exactly the same, the guy who doesn't look like everybody else is probably getting cut. So when I look at the Giants backfield, I see Cam Scatterboo, short, stocky, physical runner. I see Najee Harris, big, stocky, physical runner. Then I see, I believe it's Devin Singletary, the 3rd running back, short, stocky, physical runner. And then I see Tyrone Tracy, who is a scat back. One of these things is not like the other. And like Jeff said, he missed that block that almost got Jackson Dart killed in week 1. So when you add in a guy who can't pass block and you got a coach who likes big physical running backs and he's not a big physical running back, he probably won't be on that team week 1. Now, I don't know. He may not be cut because he's had a 1,000-yard season, But the way John Harbaugh works, I wouldn't be surprised to see him get cut, but I think it'll probably be more likely a trade. But just pay attention to that one. If he gets cut, I'm keeping him over Malik Davis and Jaden Blue. That's just me. I'm finding a way to get him on the roster. So Tyrone Tracy is one I'm definitely watching. I also like Roshan Johnson out of Chicago as a guy I would probably put on my practice squad. Yeah, he's a converted receiver also. I see Bobby Mann put his projected 53-man roster. Looks like he put offense up. We'll do mine in a minute, and we'll check and see how mine compares to yours, Bobby Mann. I'm doing a quick look at yours, and I can already tell you're not going to like what I put up here. Let's see. We got Aaron Mabe. Looks like another new name. So, Aaron Mabe, thank you. Definitely appreciate you joining. Be sure to come back and join us. Jack Meeker, you asked the question. We do have 2 injured reserve designations that don't count. That is correct. I was about to talk about that right now. So let's go ahead and talk some free agency and some 53-man roster really quick. Before we do, let me put up some rules that I want you guys to be aware of. All players with 4 years experience or less have to go through the waiver process. So that means once they get cut, they're for 24 hours, any team can pick them up. The caveat to that is if a team claims that player off waivers, that player must go on that team's 53-man roster. So a team can't claim a guy off waivers and then put him on the practice squad. That's not how it works. If they pick up a guy, he's on your roster week 1. Number 3, players with 4 years experience or more become immediate free agents. So if there's a guy on your team who has 4 years of experience, once he's cut, he does not have to go through waivers. He's a free agent. He can either sit at home and wait and go to any team he wants, or he can stay with the team that cuts him, let them figure some stuff out with IR, get on the 53-man roster, or they can go to the practice squad. Number 4, a player placed on IR must be added to the 53-man roster before putting them on IR, or their season is over. So what that means is you can't just put a guy on IR to try to hide him. You have to put him on your roster and wait 24 hours and then put him on IR. But rule number 5, which was added 2 years ago, which Jack Meeker just pointed out, they created an exception. So you can put 2 guys on IR without being on your 53-man roster, and they can return during the season. So these are the 5 rules I want you guys to remember as I talk about who's going to make the team and who's not. Let me give you a couple of more rules that I personally have for 53-man roster. Now, these are my 4 rules for determining who gets cut from a team. Rule number 1, does the player have to go through waivers? If it's a guy I really like, I may not want to take a chance of him going through waivers and another team poaching him. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2, special poaching. I haven't talked about any players yet, but we'll get to it in a second. Rule number 2, will that player clear waivers? Now, I know everybody has their pet cats. Everybody has guys they really like. But a serious question you have to ask yourself is, will that guy clear waivers? And for me, when I look at the roster, the best determinant of if a guy will clear waivers is if the guy cleared waivers in years prior. So if there's a guy that I'm looking at and he cleared waivers last year and he cleared waivers the year before, chances are he'll clear waivers again this year. Unless he just had a spectacular preseason. So I want you guys to keep that in mind when I start to tell you some guys that I think get cut. Number 2, very important. Number 3, contract implications. What I mean by contract implications is if there's a guy who's on the roster who has a 1-year deal playing for the league minimum with no guarantees, more than likely that guy's going to get cut. If, going back to rule number 1, they don't have to go through waivers. If there's a guy who just signed a big contract and there'll be some dead cap space, even if he doesn't have to go through waivers, I may still keep him on my roster because I don't want to take that cap dump and then have to turn around and sign him again. That would be a guy like Tyler Lepke, for example. He just signed a contract last year. We could cut him and bring him back. But if we did that, we would take a $2 to $3 million cap hit for cutting him, and then we have to turn around and sign him to a contract for another $1 million. So that would be $3 million wasted. We may as well just keep him on the roster, pay his $2 million salary this year. The last thing, value of, I'm sorry, I always say Tyler Lepke because I think about Tyler Klutz. It's Hunter Lepke. Thank you, Jeff. Last thing is value of the position. Now, this one is the one that gets tricky for fans because the fans will say, we got this receiver, and I'm not giving anything away, so don't jump to any conclusions when I say this, but we got this receiver. He's 6'3". He jumps out of the gym. He runs a 4.4. There's no way we're going to cut that guy. But then you look around the league, and everybody's team has a 6'3", jump out of the gym, 4.4 receiver. So unless the guy that we're talking about did something spectacular during preseason and training camp, the value of the position says that there's a good chance that guy clears waivers. Same thing at the running back position. We got this big physical running back, a bruiser. There's no way the team's going to cut him. But then you look around the league, and every team has a big bruising running back as their third running back. There's a strong chance our guy's going to clear waivers because most teams are not going to drop their guy to pick up somebody else's guy who hasn't been through their system. So that's kind of what I mean when I say the value of the position. Personally, I don't value wide receiver. I don't value running back. I don't value safety. I don't value linebacker. And I don't value tight end. That's me personally. So if we're looking at the bottom of the roster and there's a guy who is at one of those positions and the fan base is thinking there's no way we cut him, I want you to just think about the rest of the league and how many teams have a number 3 running back that's 6 foot 230 who's a bruising running back. Think about how many teams have a 6'5" tight end that's not a good blocker but can catch really well. Think about how many teams. I know I'm giving it away, but I just want to caveat it, Jeff. Some of them are going to surprise you, though. Think about how many teams have a safety who's a hard-hitting safety who may not be the most athletic. Those positions, to me, don't have value. So we may love our guy, but the Colts have a guy that they love. The Chiefs have a guy that they love. The Dolphins have a guy that they love. Are they going to cut their guy just like we cut our guy and then say, you know what? I haven't seen this guy in my training camp every week. But because the Cowboys like him, I'm going to pick him up and blow one of my roster spots. No, I'll just wait and pick up my guy and put him on the practice squad, which is what I think we'll do. Jeff, stop throwing hints out. Stop throwing hints out. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Since I got the defensive screen up first, we'll start with defense. Now, remember, in my opinion, the Cowboys for the past 5 years, they've gone 24 players on offense and 26 players on defense. So we're going to go with that same pattern again. And I forgot one more caveat on my 4 rules for roster cuts. I'll put the 4 up there again. Do they have to go through waivers? Will they clear waivers? Contract implications, value of the position. Number 5, do they play special teams? You guys knew it was coming. You know who you're talking to here. So that's the 5th one. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. So we'll start off with defense first. So let's go ahead and put the easy ones in. And I have my little counter right here so I can keep track. We're going 26 defense. So we'll go Quinnen Williams. That's a given. Otito Ogbonnia. That's a given. Kenny Clark. That's a given. Rashawn Gary. That's a given. D. Winters. That's a given. DeMarvion Overshown. Another given. Donovan Ezaraku. Then we go corner. They've just said Kobe Durant looks like he's going to be the starter. Jalen Thompson at one safety. Malik Hooker at the other safety. Deron Bland at outside. And I'm putting Caleb Downs as the nickel. So that's 12. So that's 12 right there. We've got 14 more to go. Jack Meeker says only bad thing about biting us in the butt last year is the 2 IR reception counts to our max total for the year. So, and I want you guys to help me out. We've got 12. Let's put a couple other guys who are backups that we know are going to be on the team. I think we can put LT Overton, 4th round pick, as a guarantee. We'll go Malachi Lawrence, 1st round pick, is another guarantee. Shamar James is a key backup. Jayshawn Barham. And Von Miller. Behind Kobe Durant, Siobhan Revel. That's a given. PJ Locke. If we go by what Schottenheimer said in his last press conference, because of special teams need, I think we can put Marquise Bell as a given. So I'm going to put Marquise Bell. All right. So now we're at 20 players. We only have 6 players left. So let me go ahead and count a couple of people out because I see the comments. So Jack Meeker, you say Bullard. I don't think Bullard makes the 53-man roster. And here's my reason why. Going back to my 4 rules. Does Bullard have to clear waivers? No. He's a free agent. Then rule number 3, contract implications. Bullard's contract is a 1-year, $1 million contract with no guarantees. 1 year, $1 million tells me he did not have any takers when he was a free agent. So, and also add on top of that, he's not practicing right now. He's dealing with a groin injury. So his contract isn't guaranteed. It's the league minimum. He doesn't have to go through waivers, and he's injured right now. Bullard will get cut. They're going to tell him not to answer the phone. And then tomorrow, we're going to put you on the practice squad. And once we figured this stuff out, then we may bring you back to the 53. So I don't have Bullard as a 53-man roster guy, Jack Meeker, but I don't think he's going anywhere. I see we got Charlie joining us. I'm actually typing it myself, Charlie. I'm doing it all. All right, so you guys really are not going to like what I put up here. We got 20 players left. Let me ask you guys this question. Do you guys think Jay Toya, and you must have read my mind, do you guys think Jay Toya is a keep? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. This is one that I was really torn on. I think personally, I think Jay Toya is a keep. So that takes us to 21. Okay, Jeff has no to Toya. Okay, let me put another guy up here. Right now we have 4 linebackers. Okay, Jack and Jeff say no to Toya. So who's our backup nose tackle if it's not Jay Toya? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Who's our backup nose tackle if not him? Bobby Mann says, I think Toya may be a keep, but also could be a practice squad guy too. I can't argue with you guys. I'm just asking the question. If he's not on the team, who's our backup? Because if you look right now, if I take him out, the only backup we have is LT Overton. And he's not a nose tackle. I don't think Bullard's a nose tackle, to be honest. Personally, I think Jay Toya is a keeper. So we're going to go with my 53, and we can talk after this. Now, going back to my chart, number 5, we can designate 2 players to go on IR without being on the 53-man roster. I think on defense, we're going to use one of those. We normally use them on rookies. I think it's going to be used on Devin Moore. So I don't think Devin Moore makes the initial 53. I think Devin Moore is an IR guy. That's just my opinion. I think we're going to use one on offense and one on defense. We almost always use it on rookies if there's not a veteran that's hurt. We don't have any veterans hurt right now, knock on wood. I think Devin Moore gets that nod on defense. Now that I've said that, we have 5 more spots left. Let's go to cornerback, because right now I only have 4 corners. Jack Meeker says, is Tommy Dunn a nose? I think Tommy Dunn is a nose, but I don't think he's played better than Jay Toya. So let's go to corner. Right now, I only have 4 corners up here. I think we keep at least 5. So who do you guys think is another corner that we keep? I was going through this for a long time, and as much as I hate to do it, I think Kalen Carson may make the team. I, every time I watch him, he's still playing with the twos. Somebody likes him. I've never seen him play with the third team. So that's our fifth corner. That's who I think is going to be the fifth corner. Okay. Jack Meeker, you don't like Kalen Carson. Tell me who you think goes in his place. Bobby Mann, I like Darion Kendrick. I'm a Clemson fan. I have never seen him play a snap with the second unit. That concerns me. I don't see how they can put him on the roster. Going back to my chart again, Darion Kendrick doesn't have to go through waivers. He signed a league minimum contract. I think he's going to get cut. They're going to tell him to sit at home 24 hours, and then he'll end up on the practice squad. And he'll be happy about that, I think. Nobody was knocking down his door during the offseason. I think he's going to be a practice squad guy. Bobby Mann says a mere speed. They keep talking about him. So let me ask you guys this question. Do we keep 6 corners? Let me throw your thoughts in the comments. Do we keep 6 corners? While we talk about corners, let's go to the safety position. I have 4 safeties right now. Jalen Thompson, Malik Hooker, PJ Lark, Marquise Bell. Now, I'm going to put a safety up here that you guys probably won't like. I think with everybody except Jack Meeker, I think Elijah Arenas makes the team. Elijah Clark makes the team. The reason for that is he made the team last year, and he was a key special teams guy. So I think Bell and Clark are going to be your special teams corners. And then between Hooker, Thompson, Locke, and possibly Downs, they're going to be your in-game safeties. So, yeah, I think these are our 5 safeties. Unfortunately, I don't think Wood makes the team. And let me give you my reasons why. I'm going to keep referencing my chart again. Number 1, do they have to go through waivers? Woods has to go through waivers. Number 2, will they clear waivers? Woods has been cut the past 3 years, and every year he's cleared waivers, and every year he's been on the Cowboys practice squad. So, based on history, I don't think he's shown enough this offseason to make me believe he won't clear waivers again. To add on top of that, when I was doing my research, I found out that Julius Wood got suspended last year for violating the no, it was 2 years ago. That was 2 years ago. He got suspended for violating substance abuse or performance arts and drugs. That was one of the reasons he got cut in 2024. But got cut last year, Cowboys practice squad again. So he's been cut and cleared waivers 2 years in a row. I like the player. He has not shown me enough to say that he won't clear waivers again. And then you add to that position value. I don't value safeties. And if you're telling me that Wood is a really good special teams guy, I already have that in Marquise Bell, which Shotty I already discussed, and I already have that in Elijah Clark. Everybody who's a Cowboys fan knows what I'm talking about with Elijah Clark. That one play bought him another year. And on top of that, when I watch him in practice and watch him in preseason games, he's playing the entire game and not making a mistake. So he has a chance to play some defense as well. Let's see. I'm not mad at Clark. Wouldn't be mad about Wood either. So that likely means 5 corners and 5 safeties, which personally I like. I'm right there with you. Locke can play special teams too. You're right. I think they keep Clark and Bale so he doesn't have to. I think Locke's going to be extremely involved in your offense. So let's say we keep 6 corners. Now, Jack Meeker brought up a good point, and that was the point I was going to make. Jeff did also. We need a backup nickel. Jack Meeker said Stewart and nickel. That's my 6th position. I think Reddy Stewart is going to be our 6th cornerback. And the reason is what everybody else just said. We don't have a backup nickel. Caleb Downs may get called to play some safety. If he does, I don't think they want to shuffle Deron Bland and nickel, put Javon Revel as a starter, shift Caleb Downs to safety. I think they just want to put Reddy Stewart in, and then you rock and roll from there. And then Stewart, if you love Downs at nickel, if you need another safety, you can throw Reddy Stewart back there because they've been playing him at safety this preseason. He's been solid. So I think these are our 6 corners. I think these are our 5 safeties. So I can pretty much stop looking at this. We've got 3 players left on defense. Bobby Mann said, pretty sure Kendrick is listed as backup corner to Downs, then Reddy Stewart 3rd string. I'll be honest, I don't trust that 53-man roster that was released because they still have Trayshawn Holden on every week. So I don't really trust it, even if he's on there. I think Kendrick can clear waivers, and I think he can go on your practice squad. Reddy Stewart can't. So I think that's kind of the difference between the two. So we got 3 more spots left on defense. Let's go to. You guys want to go to linebacker or end? Okay, Jeff already said it. Houston versus Sam Williams. That's a good question. I think James Houston is going to be a lock for this team. I think he's one of our better pass rushers, and he's shown that. So I'm going to lock James Houston in. Now, that's 25 guys. We only have 1 position left. We don't have Sam Williams on here. We don't have Leofow on here. We don't have Justin Barron on here. So 2 of those 3 guys I don't have on my roster. Let me go ahead and put Bullard up here. Vet cut. Kendrick. Vet cut. I think those guys are coming back. Now, this one was a tough one for me because if I go by my rules, Justin Barron was cut last offseason and he cleared waivers. So I'll ask you guys this question. Do you think Justin Barron has shown enough this offseason and preseason that if he were to be cut, another team would pick him up? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If Justin Barron were to be cut, because this goes back to one of my rules. He has to go through waivers. That's 1. Question 2, will they clear waivers? Because 3, contract implications. His contract is dirt cheap. Value of the position. I don't value linebackers. So he checks all four of these boxes as a guy that could be cut. The question is, do you think he's shown enough that if he were to be cut, he would not clear waivers? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. So, Jeff, is that a no? You don't think he'll clear waivers? I already know your thoughts, Jack Meeker. You don't have to tell me. Bobby Mann says 3 interceptions in Rams practice. I say they pick him up immediately. Jeff says Jeff thinks nobody's putting in a waiver for Barron. That's interesting because I know you really like him. Okay. Jack Meeker's abstaining. So let me ask you this question. If Sam Williams were to be cut, would somebody claim him on waivers? I'm putting the question out there. If Sam Williams were to be cut, would someone claim him on waivers? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Personally, I think if Sam Williams were cut, he probably would be claimed by some team. You got the Niners, who have Matt Eberflus. You've got Dan Quinn, obviously. You've got Kellen Moore with the Saints. All those guys know him. So I think Sam Williams, if cut, would be claimed off waivers. So I think that would give him a checkbox over Barron. Now, Leofow. If Leofow were to be cut, do you think he would clear waivers? Let me know what you guys think about Leofow. Do you think moving him from inside linebacker to outside linebacker may have hurt his stock around the league? Or do you think teams will still take a chance and bring him in? Personally, I think if Leofow were cut, a team would claim him on waivers. So if I'm looking at those three guys, I think Sam Williams and Leofow will both be claimed on waivers. I agree with Jeff. I don't think Justin Barron will be claimed on waivers. So I know you guys are going to hate this, especially Jack Meeker. I think Justin Barron gets cut. And personally, because of special teams value and because Sam Williams is a key special teams guy, and I think he'd be claimed on waivers, I think Sam Williams gets the last spot. So this is who I think is my 26-man roster right here on defense. I think we IR Devin Moore. I think Bullard gets the veteran cut. I think he comes back on the practice squad. I think Kendrick gets the veteran cut. I think he comes back on the practice squad. I think Justin Barron gets cut. I think there's a chance he clears waivers. I think there's a strong chance. Because again, he's still a 220-pound linebacker. And 3 interceptions against the Rams aside, I don't think he's shown enough from last year when he got cut to say he won't get cut and cleared this year. Same thing with Julius Wood. I like the player, but I think we already have that in Bell and Clark. And he cleared waivers last year. So this is what I think the defense looks like. If I had to swap a guy out, it would probably be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would probably say they would swap out Elijah Clark before they swapped out Sam Williams, because you have Caleb Downs and Reddy Stewart who can play safety, and you have Bell who can play special teams. When I look at the linebacker position, I don't see special teams in any of these linebackers, and that's my concern. Gary's not playing special teams. I don't think Lawrence is playing special teams. I know Von Miller's not playing special teams, and I know Ezraku's not playing special teams. James Houston may play special teams, but Sam Williams is a better special teamer than him. So I think Sam Williams is going to be your designated special teams player at linebacker, and then whatever he gives you on defense is just a bonus. Oh yeah, Jack Meeker. I don't think any of those defensive tackles, Tommy Dunn, Kelvin Gilliam, and I can't think of the third guy's name. I don't think any of them have shown enough to where if they were cut, a team would claim them. And that's what you got to remember. I know we like these guys as fans. I know we love these guys as fans. But at the end of the day, the name of the game is, can this guy clear waivers? And if they have not been spectacular in preseason games, there's not another team in the NFL that's going to cut a guy that they've watched all offseason in their camp. They're going to cut that guy to bring in somebody else. If Leofau clears waivers, I'm 1,000% bringing him back, Jeff. There's no question, because we get 12 spots, and he's going to be playing. So I hope he clears waivers. Unfortunately, I don't think he will, but I think if it becomes between Leofau and Sam Williams, I think Sam Williams gives you a little bit more in terms of special teams. So I got 5 guys that most people think are going to make the team that are going to get cut, and then I think Devin Moore gets the IR. Now, let me go back again, because I want to ask you guys before we go to offense, and we're at 1 hour and 8 minutes. I'll go through offense quick. I think it's pretty self-explanatory on offense. Now, I ask you guys this before I move on. If you look at my list right here, because I know some of you guys may think I'm crazy or upset. If I were to bring one of these guys back into the 53-man roster, who would I replace them with? So I know it's one thing to say, I love Julius Wood, and I think he's been really good this preseason. But to keep him on this team, somebody has to go. So you tell me who you're cutting to keep Julius Wood or Justin Barron or Leofau. Are you cutting Reddy Stewart to keep one of these guys? Are you cutting James Houston to keep one of these guys? If you made an argument for Elijah Clark, I probably couldn't fight it. I'm going strictly off the fact that Elijah Clark made the team last year, and he was one of our better special teamers as a rookie. That's the only argument I can make. If you can make a better argument of cutting Clark and keeping Leofau, Barron, or Wood, I probably could agree with you. Barron for Clark if I'm bringing one back. I couldn't argue with that, Bobby, man. To me, they're basically the same guy. The only difference is Barron plays linebacker. So I can't argue with that. But as of right now, I still got Clark in. Jack Meeker says Sam is just undisciplined. Coach might be on that. That's a good point too. But Sam Williams is 250 pounds and he plays gunner. You're not finding that anywhere else in the league. And like I said, he's probably not playing a snap of defense. If he gives you anything on defense, that's a bonus. Sam Williams' job is special teams. He's your special teams guy for that position. So I don't think the undisciplined is going to be as much of a problem as years past when we had to play Sam Williams because we didn't have capable backups. But now we got Malachi Lawrence. Now we got Von Miller. James Houston's taking another step forward. All those guys are in front of Sam Williams. So unless somebody gets hurt, Sam Williams probably won't touch the field on defense. So I'm not concerned about that. Jeff asked a question, what about Zion Childress? Now, you know I love Zion Childress, and it was hard for me to make that cut. But the fact of the matter is, number one, he was cut last year, and he ended up back on this team. Number two, he's missed pretty much the entire training camp with an injury. He's only been here for a week, and I don't think I saw him play in a game. So if I'm looking at it from the perspective of I'm the Dolphins, a team that's just devoid of talent, and I'm looking around the league trying to find another cornerback, they don't have the same intel we do as fans because they're not reading our blogs. They're not watching what John Machota and Patrick No C Walker say. They're not watching our clips. They're going strictly off of what we saw last year, what we saw in preseason games. And from those two situations, I don't think there's a team in the league that would say, I'm going to put Zion Childress on my 53-man roster based off what I've seen this offseason. So I think he's going to get cut, and I think he'll clear waivers. Big Business 3477 says Clark cut. Tommy Dunn makes the team, new to the channel. Thank you for joining Big Business. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Definitely appreciate you tuning in. This is an interactive show, so we welcome all questions and comments. What I would say to that is, I don't know if you just watched the show or you just came on. I'm going to go back to my rules again. My rules for 53-man roster. Tommy Dunn. Do they have to go through waivers? Yes. Contract implications. He is a undrafted rookie. His contract is dirt cheap, expendable. Value of the position. He's a nose tackle. We already have 2. Do we necessarily need 3? And will they clear waivers? Personally, I don't think Tommy Dunn, and for those of you who watched the show, when I did my preseason breakdown, I had him as my 3rd favorite undrafted rookie with a very high chance of making a roster. So I love the player. I don't think he's shown enough to say we're going to keep him over Elijah Clark, who started the last 2 preseason games at safety, didn't make any errors, and he was a core special teamer as a rookie. All that goes against him. So I think the only way Clark leaves this team is if you find a better special teamer who's cut, and that would have to be Leah Farrell Wood. Nobody else will take Clark off this roster. And I don't know if Tommy Dunn plays special teams. That's another problem. He's a defensive tackle, so he's pretty limited to where he can play. So that's going to hurt him a lot. So I don't think Tommy Dunn makes the team. He'll definitely be on the practice squad. All right. I spent a long time on defense. Let's go to the offensive side of the ball. So on offense, we've got 24 positions. Let's go ahead and go through the obvious ones, and then we'll talk about filling in the rest of the gaps. Dak, obvious. Javonte Williams, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Ryan Flournoy, Jake Ferguson, Hunter Lepke, Jeff, Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, Tyler Booker, And as much as I hate to say it, I almost typed Terrence Aluminum right there. Terrence Steele. So that's 12 right there. We're only keeping 24. So let's go through the backups. I think we can lock in Joe Milton as the number 2. Based off what I've seen in week 2 of preseason and in practices, I think Malik Davis is our backup running back. At a minimum, he's making the team. Kavontae Turpin. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, we'll go to tight end. Brevin Spann Ford. Nathan Thomas. TJ Bass. All right. I think those are the guys that everybody who's watching will agree are locks on this team, right? Let me know if I miss somebody or if there's somebody you disagree with. Now, we've got 18 spots right here. We're only keeping 24. So we have 6 spots left. Let's go through position by position. So let's go to running back. I think we all agree Jaden Blue's making the team. So that's 19. Okay. Even though Jeff doesn't like it, I think we can all agree Luke Schoonmaker's going to make the team. So that's 20. We only have 4 spots left. I put Schoonmaker in the wrong spot. All right. So we got 4 spots left. So I think this is where it's going to get tough. I think Nick Everett is a lock, personally. We don't have a backup center. I think he's played really good. And I think you want to keep TJ Bass as your swing guard. Okay. We've got 3 spots left. We only have 4 wide receivers. We only have 2 quarterbacks. We only have 3 running backs. We have a rookie that we drafted this year in Drew Shelton. So let me go ahead and put these out the way. Let's go back to my chart again. Thank you. I spelled it wrong. I said Everett. I meant Leverett. Thank you. Now, when I was first looking at this, Nick Leverett is a veteran who you could cut. He doesn't have to go through waivers. And you could put him on the practice squad for a week. I'm actually still leaning towards that. But when I look at, I believe there are 3 teams who just lost their starting center for the year. Center is one of those positions like left tackle where it's hard to find a good guy to play that spot. And I have a concern that if we cut Nick Leverett now, he's going to end up on one of those teams who lost their starting center. He's going to be their backup because now their backup has to be a starter, like at the Chargers. And I can't remember the other 2 teams. But if I would have made this yesterday, Nick Leverett would have been my veteran cut. But because those other teams really need centers, I think he makes the roster now because you don't want to lose him. So let me go to my veteran cut. I personally think Joe Milton has shown enough to be the backup. Sam Howell Sam Howell has been a journeyman quarterback. As a quarterback, his contract was 1 year, $1.3 million. Let me confirm that before I misspeak. Sam Howell's contract is 1 year, $2 million. He's been on 4 teams in 5 years. I think Sam Howell's going to be a veteran cut. The Cowboys gave him a chance when nobody else did. I don't see a lot of teams lining up to bring him in. He's been on 5 teams already. He's been on 5 teams already, so I don't think somebody's going to be clamoring to get him. I think he's going to be your veteran cut. You tell him to sit at home 24 hours. You bring him back on your practice squad. And if you need an emergency quarterback, you bring him up from the practice squad. So I think we roll with 2 quarterbacks on our roster. Bobby Mann, I don't know if you caught the show earlier. I don't trust what that depth chart says. Leverett played center in both preseason games, the full game. I know they have him listed as guard. I think TJ Bass is a guard. Tyler Smith didn't practice today in the live stream. TJ Bass was the starting guard. I think Bass is going to be your swing guard and Leverett's going to be your center. I don't trust that depth chart that's come out because, again, Trayshawn Holden is still listed on every depth chart that's come out the past 2 weeks. There's no chance Joe Milton gets traded. He's 23 years old, I believe. The coaching staff chose him last year to be traded for. He's 26. Jeff asked the question, would the third quarterback count against your roster? The third quarterback will count against the 53, but they don't count against the game day roster. So if he's on your 53, you can only bring 46 players into a game, but if you have a third quarterback, you can count them as 47. So he would count against your 53. But again, I think he gets cut. I think he starts off at least 1 week on the practice squad. Now, I see you guys put 26. I don't know what 26 means. Let me know what that means. Stephen White says they cross-trained Bass. That's true. They had to cross-train Bass because we lost Brock Hoffman in free agency, and then we signed Matt Hennessy in the offseason, and he had season-ending injury. So before we brought in Nick Leverett, we had no backup center. So they had to cross-train TJ Bass. But now that Leverett is a legit center, I don't think that experiment is going to be taking place anymore. He's going to be your emergency center, just like he was when Brock Hoffman was here. So I think Nick Leverett's your backup center. I think Bass is your swing guard. I think Thomas is your swing tackle. Yeah, I looked it up. I said 24. I looked it up. It is 26. For quarterback years, that's still young. Stephen White says Bass is first up for wherever he's our best backup. I would argue that I think Nick Leverett is probably a better backup center because, for one, he's a true center, which means he knows how to call protections. He's used to the nuances of the center position. I don't have to worry about him botching any snaps. I've still not seen TJ Bass in a game do more than 5 snaps. What's going to happen when Dexter Lawrence is lined up in front of him? Is he going to be able to snap the ball to the quarterback without going over his head? I don't know. I know Nick Leverett's played center for his whole life. He knows how to snap the ball. So that one kind of concerns me. But if you have Bass as your backup center, until I see otherwise, I can't argue with you. As a guy who played center for several years, I just think having a guy who's played center is extremely important. So I think that puts Nick Leverett on the team. Now, uh, Big Business 3477. Are you keeping Milton as a true backup for the future? I'll be honest, I'm not concerned about the future right now. I'm just taking it year by year. Next year, we may bring in a guy who beats Joe Milton. Um, Maybe Joe Milton showed enough this offseason. I think he's a free agent next year. Maybe somebody offers him $6-7 million to be their backup and we lose him. I'm not concerned about that. I'm just concerned about this year. And I think for this year, I think you're going to have Joe Milton and Sam Howell on this team. I just think Sam Howell's going to be on the practice squad. So I don't think you're losing them. But again, Big Business, that does not make sense. Just because he's not your backup of the future does not mean you trade him. Because what if we thought like that when Cooper Rush had to step in for Dak for 6 games? Who would have been our backup? Ben DiNucci? You can't treat the quarterback position like every other position. And the value that you would get, if any, for Joe Milton is not nearly worth the value he has to this team if Dak goes out. You don't trade backup quarterbacks just because you think they have value, unless they have starter value somewhere. Now, if you tell me that the Steelers don't like Aaron Rodgers or the Titans don't like Cam Ward and they want to try Joe Milton as a starter to compete and they're willing to give me a second or a third, I'd probably take that. But if I'm just trading him to get a 5th round pick, I'd rather just hold on to him. If his stock rises this year, think about how it'll be next year. And again, I think what you guys are forgetting, because Cowboys fans tend to live in the moment, Joe Milton had a terrible preseason last year. I think everybody here who's watching right now would agree. If Joe Milton got cut last year, I don't think we would have been upset. So because he had 2 preseason games that were good, now you're saying his value is so high that we can get real value back for him? No, I don't believe that. If he were available for a trade, at best you would get a 5th. At best. And if I'm getting a 5th when I traded, what did we trade for? He was drafted in the 6th round, and the Cowboys traded a 7th for him. The Cowboys traded Joe Milton in the 7th in exchange for a 5th. So if I'm not getting a 3rd or a 4th, I'm just keeping them. I'm not trading them for a 5th. Okay. If by chance you can get a 3rd round pick for Joe Milton, I'm with you, Big Business. I'm trading them. I don't think you're getting a 3rd round pick for a backup quarterback. That's just my opinion. But if you got a team, who's willing to give a 3rd, I think we all agree. Take the pick. We'll figure the rest out later. All right. So we got 3 picks left. Now, remember what I said. You get 2 IR spots that you can put on IR without going through your 53-man roster. I have 2 players that are eligible for that IR spot. I think Michael Trigg is eligible, and I think Drew Shelton is eligible. Which one of you guys would you give that IR spot to? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Okay. Everybody's saying Trigg. So if Michael Trigg gets the IR spot, That means you have to put Drew Shelton on your roster because you're not cutting a fourth round pick. All right. So now we're at 22 spots on offense. We only have 2 spots left. We don't have Phil Maffa. We don't have Camden Brown. We don't have Jonathan Mingo. We don't have Trevor Keegan. We don't have a Johnny Cornelius. These are the guys that the fan base really likes. We only have 2 spots left. I named you 5 guys. You said you cut Shelton. I don't think they cut Shelton. There's no way they cut Shelton. And let me tell you why. And for you guys that are saying we wipe our hands of Shelton, let me say this. If we had your mentality, we would have cut Joe Milton last year. And don't say we wouldn't, because last year's preseason was awful. Look at what happens when a coaching staff brings in a guy they like and they get a year to groom him. What if Drew Shelton can become what Joe Milton is now? He's a 4th round pick. Everybody who watched him in college knows his biggest issue was play strength. And I don't know if you guys watch the rest of the league, but a lot of left tackles look really, really bad. So it's not like Drew Shelton's just standing out as the worst of the worst. He needs development. I don't think you cut him. I've seen some people say, well, if you believe in competition, then you cut Drew Shelton. Competition doesn't fit every position because you have to have a sense of development. So you said that's a weird thought to that. So you don't believe in developing young players? Is that what you're saying? I don't get the disconnect there. They draft this coaching staff drafted that guy this year with a 4th round pick. They see something we don't, and they want to take some time to pull that out. So I don't think they're judging a young player who's never played in the NFL level because he had 2 bad preseason games. So I don't know why people just wanna cut him so bad, like he was an undrafted guy. They drafted him at a spot where they could have got a potential starter somewhere. They're gonna see what they got. Okay, you don't like the comparison of Milton and Shelton. I can understand that. I can definitely understand that. I'll give you another comparison then. Ryan Flanoy. Ryan Flanoy was a 5th round pick. They've kept him around. He looked awful his first year. They've kept him around for 2 years. They developed him, and now look what you got. You don't give up on young guys that you draft and groom, especially after 1 month of a bad camp. Now, if this was year 3, he got cut, but they brought him back. That's my point. And he was a 6th round pick. Now, if this was year 3 Drew Shelton, I would say, okay, that was pretty bad. But 3 months into the league, when everybody knows that left tackle is one of the hardest positions to play, and you're gonna cut him because of 2 bad games, I don't go for it. Anthony Smith was a 7th round pick, I believe. That's a huge difference. 7th round pick is a throwaway pick. That's like, okay, we're just trying to find out. We're just trying to find a guy who has traits. That's like Phil Maffa. But Drew Shelton was a 4th-round pick. He was drafted before LT Overton. So I think the fan base is overreacting a little bit to Drew Shelton. And he's looked bad. I'm not saying he doesn't look bad. He looks terrible. But he's at a developmental position, is one of the most important positions in the league, left tackle. And there are not a lot of good left tackles in the league. And you just got to give those guys some time. I don't think he's had enough time. If he was a 6th or 7th round pick, I would probably be right there with you guys. But I don't think they're cutting a 4th round pick after one season. I mean, after one training camp. I just don't see it. If anything, they would cut Michael Trigg and they would use the IR spot on Drew Shelton. Or, and I haven't talked about this, they may IR Michael Trigg for the season and just shut him down for the year and then give Drew Shelton the temporary IR tag. I think that would be a more possible option than just cutting Drew Shelton outright. Have you seen Nathan Thomas play? And Nathan Thomas is a 3rd-year player, and he hasn't looked that much better than Drew Shelton. Nathan Thomas is going to be a free agent probably next year, and Terrence Steele is probably going to be cut. So they're grooming for the future, and this coaching staff brought this guy in. I don't think he's getting cut. I would be highly surprised if he does. All right, so I spent enough time talking about that. And I'll say this. Was Terrence Steele horrific as a rookie? Was Tyler Guyton horrific as a rookie? Just something to think about. I think you're taking your hatred of the player and not looking at what his value is to the team. All right, so we got 2 more spots left on offense. We still haven't talked running back. We still got 2 wide receiver spots left. I know you didn't just say Terrence Steele and Tyler Guyton wasn't terrible as rookies. All right, I can't even have a conversation with you then. If you're not gonna discuss in truth and not say we didn't call him Terrence Aluminum for 2 years, you just don't like the player at that point. All right, so we got 2 spots left. Personally, I think Phil Maffa gets cut. The reason for that, and I talked about this on the show last week. I won't say that special potion. I just think we agree to disagree, and I think he really doesn't like Drew Shelton. I won't say he doesn't know ball. From the few interactions he's had right here, he knows what he's talking about. I just don't think he likes Drew Shelton, and that's fine. We can agree to disagree, but I won't say he doesn't know ball. So now Phil Maffa. Going back to my training camp rules. Number 1, do they go through waivers? Phil Maffa has to go through waivers. Contract implications. He was a 6th round pick last year. Contract is dirt cheap. Value of position. He plays running back. To me, one of the least valuable positions in the league. And number 2, will they clear waivers? And this is the one where fans will have a disagreement at. Let's talk about Phil Maffa for a second. Now, Phil Maffa was a sixth round pick last year. Phil Maffa was on IR for all but 2 games last year. Phil Maffa played 1 game this year and left that game with an injury. And in week 2, he only had 1 carry. Those are the facts that 31 other teams are looking at when determining whether or not they want to bring Phil Maffa in on their 53-man roster. So if you want to make an argument for, I don't think Phil Maffa will clear waivers, you tell me if there was a running back who was a sixth round pick who missed almost all of last year, and in the 2 games that I've seen him play in, he left 1 game injured, and in the second game, he only had 1 carry. Would you put that guy on your roster? If the answer is yes, I'll put Phil Maffa up here. If the answer is yes, I'll put Phil Maffa up here. But I think we can all agree. And like Jeff said, they put a 230-pound guy at kickoff return. That pretty much says all you need to know about Phil Maffa. I think Phil Maffa gets cut. I think he definitely clears waivers because I can't see any team saying, I'm going to cut a running back who's been in my camp, all training camp, and replace him with Phil Maffa, who has maybe 15 career carries and missed all of last year with injury. I just don't see it. So I think Phil Maffa definitely gets cut. We've taken care of Trigg. We've taken care of Howell. That leaves 2 more roster spots. And I think for special teams purposes, Jonathan Mingo definitely gets 1. And I'm tempted to say Camden Brown could get cut, but I think they like what they see. And if he were to get cut, I think because of the potential of the explosiveness, some other team would claim him on waivers. So I think they keep 6 receivers. This is my 24 players on offense. I think Phil Maffa gets cut at running back. I think Sam Howell gets cut at quarterback. I think Michael Trigg gets the IR designation. Unfortunately, as much as I like Trevor Keegan and a Johnny Cornelius, TJ Bass is your swing guard. I don't necessarily see the need to keep both of those. I think you got to take your chances and hope one of those guys clears waivers for your practice squad. And yeah, I think that's it. So I see big business is making his case for Terrence Steele. Even though everybody who watched Terrence Steele as a rookie said he was terrible. And you're ignoring the fact that Drew Shelton came from a team in college in Penn State where they were a really good team with 2 really good running backs and a great passing game. And Drew Shelton, by the way, has some of the best feet in the draft. So it's not like they just drafted some scrub and said, we're going to take a chance. No, the kid has a lot of potential and he's a rookie. He probably had more potential than Terrence Steele because Terrence Steele was an undrafted. He was either a 7th round pick or an undrafted free agent. And you say Tyler Guyton was soft. That's Drew Shelton's biggest concern is him being soft. So you're basically making the same argument. Yeah, I knew it was undrafted or 7th round pick. I mean, if Drew Shelton gets cut, you're more than welcome to come back and say I told you so. I just don't see it. I don't see them cutting a 4th round pick at left tackle. That would be like them cutting a backup quarterback or cutting Devin Moore, who's a backup corner, because they look bad in preseason and you didn't see him a lot. I just don't see it. I agree. He needs the red shirt. That's why I say he could possibly get the IR at a minimum, but I think they keep him around because they want him to get experience. Good point, the lunatic. We drafted Waletzko and Josh Ball, who were far less athletic than Drew Shelton, and they were both 4th round picks, and we kept them around. That's a great point I didn't think about. But yeah, so this is my roster. So these are my 24 on offense for you guys who are joining us late. I think we keep 6 wide receivers. I think we keep 9 offensive linemen. I think we go short at running back, but I will caveat that to say I think we will bring in a veteran and put him on the practice squad. It could be Trey Benson. It could be James Conner, Roshan Johnson, Tyrone Tracy. There could be a veteran that gets cut. You never know. But I think we will have a veteran running back on our practice squad after the final 53-man roster. That veteran will probably be called up week 1, kind of like we did with Malik Davis last year. But I think we roll with Davis and Blue week 1. I think Sam Howell gets the veteran cut, sit at home, don't take any phone calls, go on our practice squad. I think Phil Moffitt gets cut. I don't see him getting claimed off waivers. I think the only way we lose Phil Moffitt is if he's upset that we cut him and out of spite, he goes somewhere else and joins somebody else's practice squad. That is an option as well. But other than that, I think he gets cut and I think he comes back. So, same question I asked on offense. The same question I asked on defense, I'll ask on offense. And I'll put a Johnny Cornelius over here because I know people like him. And I'll put Trevor Keegan because I know people like him. Now, question before we go. If we were to bring one of these guys back, what player would we cut to put them on the roster? I'll put that question out there and then I'll let you guys go. Hour and 50 minutes, great show. Thank you for the back and forth. Big business, great conversation. Don't take anything personal. We can always agree to disagree. None of us know if we're right or wrong, but we all have strong opinions, and that's what I love about Cowboys fans. But thank you for joining tonight, Jeff, Special Potion, the Lunatic, Jack Meeker. You guys bring it as usual. I see we had Kurt Whitmer join us at some point. Thank you for chiming in. I got Turpin on here already too. Let's see. Special Potion asked about what about Pete? He got a lot of attention in preseason. Again, these cuts are hard. I don't think he's done enough to get a roster spot. I think he'll definitely be a guy who joins our practice squad. If he clears waivers, I think he likes Dallas. I think he likes the attention that it brings for his heritage to be here. So I think he probably joins. Bobby Mann says Cornelius was the highest rated O-lineman in week 2. I think he stays. Shelton may get the red shirt year he needs it, so the intrigue will be kept. He's more ready now. Now, great comment, Bobby Mann. I think what would happen is you would IR Michael Trigg for the year, and then you would IR Drew Shelton for the return guy, so he can return later in the year. and you just keep them on there as long as you can, kind of like we did with Jonathan Mingo and Phil Maffa last year. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Drew Shelton get put on IR, and then you keep a guy like Cornelius because I like him as well. Jeff still want to keep Schoonmaker. Now Kurt Whitmer, special teams matters. If I'm looking on this list, Mingo may be your best special teamer on offense. You could probably argue Hunter Lepke, but those two are your best special teamers. 100% Mingo is your best special teamer on the receiver group. And you got to have a guy who's a special teamer in every position group that's not a returner. Because you have to have speed on special teams. So you can't put Schoonmaker and Bevan Span Ford out there. That's going to be a slow special teams unit. You got to have speed out there. And I think Mingo gives you that juice. And as much as I love Camden Brown, he does run a 4.6. So that's not the type of guy you want to possibly be your gunner on punt or to be running down on kickoff. You got to say speed. You got to have speed. Now, this is something I usually argue with people about the lunatic. I don't think that cutting a guy on offense will add another spot on defense. That's one of those arguments I normally make. I think teams are usually pretty rigid on how many guys they carry on each side of the ball. So if you were to cut Mingo, I think you would only be bringing back another offensive guy. I don't think you would cut Mingo to add a 27th guy on defense. Bobby Mann says, I'm keeping Cornelius. I'm fine with cutting Mingo to do so. I think we need O-tackle help and he could play guard. I can't argue with that, Bobby Mann. If Camden Brown can play special teams and we haven't seen it, because I haven't, because I pay close attention to that. If the team thinks he can play special teams and you value having that depth at offensive line more than having a fast special teamer, I can't argue with that. I personally think they would probably find a way to IR Shelton before they cut somebody else, but that's just me. So I'm paying close attention to that IR spot. Stephen White said Pete looked more like Shelton. I'll be honest, Pete as a guard looked better than Shelton as a tackle. I'm not saying Drew Shelton looks like a good player right now. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that because of the value of the position and the value of the draft pick they gave up, they're going to give him a longer leash. Devin Moore and Triad going to be candidates for the toe injury. I agree 100%. I wouldn't be shocked if Michael Triad gets the year-long IR. For a guy like that, I think that's good for him. Personally, you get paid for a year. Next year, Schoonmaker's gone. Jake Ferguson may be gone. You never know. And now Michael Triad comes back to camp, and there's not a lot of competition. And he still gets to practice with the team and go to meetings and get paid as a rookie. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Michael Triad get a year-long IR tag and they just shut him down. I do have Hunter Lepke. I have him at fullback. Hunter Lepke is right here. I think it didn't stand out because I had fullback listed separately instead of having it with running back. No, Mingo is in his 4th year. He doesn't have 4 full seasons. This is his 4th year, so he would be subjected to waivers this year. Like the lunatic said, this is his 4th year. He has to clear waivers. Bobby Mann said, I'd cut Schoonmaker and keep Triad. Trig is a weapon. Trade Schoonmaker for a bag of chips. I would love if they traded Schoonmaker. Me and Jeff talked about this all offseason. They like Schoonmaker. He's a really good blocker. I can't take that from him. He's a decent special teamer, and they used a second round pick on him. So they want to get all the value they can out of him. If somebody were to offer him if somebody were to offer us a decent trade for him, I'm still watching Pittsburgh. I think there's still a shot that Pittsburgh will offer us a trade for Schoonmaker. So keep that one in the back of your minds. There's going to be some trades that are made within the next 72 hours. And I think Schoonmaker to Pittsburgh is one of those potential trades that I think could happen. And if it does, it'll shake up the offensive roster spots. You keep posting the Chicken Hunter. Is that a nickname I'm not familiar with, Stephen White? Who is the Chicken Hunter? I'm curious. I'm assuming you mean Von Miller, but I'm thinking it may be somebody else. The Lunatic asks, do you think Hooker or Bale have any trade value? Bale maybe to Quinn. I don't think they would trade Hooker. I know we don't value him as fans, but I think because they're playing Caleb Downs a lot at nickel, you have to have Malik Hooker on this roster as your safety. PJ Locke is more of a strong than a free. So I think you need Malik Hooker as a true free. So he may have trade value, but I don't think they would take it. I think Marquise Bell may have some trade value. I don't think it'll be much. Again, it'll have to be one of those situations where it's like a Dan Quinn or a Matt Eberflus or a coach that's been on our team, maybe Al Harris with Chicago. It would have to be a team who's had Marquise Bell as a coach who would want him. I don't think we would get a phone call from 30 different teams for Marquise Bell. So I think because of that limitation, he has trade value, but I don't know how likely is that they get a phone call. I don't think they trade Hooker. I think they could get a trade, but I don't think the value that Hooker brings as a veteran, smart safety is more than the 6th round pick you get offered for him. So I don't think that one's happening. If the Commanders offered a 6th for Bale, I think we would take it in a heartbeat. So I just think we got to watch and see if they do it. But the way they're playing Sonny Styles, and I can't think of the name of the safety that they signed this offseason. The way they're playing Sonny Styles and that safety, I don't think that they would bring in Bale this year, unfortunately. Jeff said, can we have a moment of silence for Donovan Wilson? Man, still don't have a job. Well, he can always come back to our practice squad. So if Julius Wood gets cut and gets claimed somewhere else, you'll probably see Donovan Wilson back in Dallas on the practice squad. That wouldn't surprise me. Bobby Mann said the Ravens always offer me a trade on Madden. They did lose likely. That's a good point. And that would be my concern about Michael Trigg because a team like the Ravens did have a similar tight end. If Trigg were to get cut, the Ravens will be all over that. I don't know if Schoonmaker fits what the Ravens would do. I still think Schoonmaker to the Steelers with Mike McCarthy is just a match made in heaven. They just paid a lot of money to their tight end, but they're using him like a 6th offensive lineman. So they still need a pass catching tight end that can block well. And I think Schoonmaker checks all the boxes for the Steelers. So I'm still paying close attention to their possible trade. All right, the Lunatic. got a question. Do you think Jimmy sending that image was his way of saying when Jerry not making personnel decisions, Cowboys win? I'm glad you caught that because that's the first thing I thought. That's the first thing I thought when I saw that. Jimmy Johnson was throwing out shots saying if you let the chefs pick out the groceries, you get a better meal than the restaurant owner. I thought the exact same thing when I saw that lunatic. Great point. All right, guys, we are at the 2-hour mark. So one of our longer shows. This is probably the longest show that I've done where it's just me. You guys really brought it in the comments tonight. So thank you all for joining. Great questions, great comments. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, I hope you guys come back for some more spirited discussions. If Drew Shelton gets cut, feel free to come back and say I told you so next week. Next week, I think we have a free week before the season. So next week we'll be analyzing what happens on the 53-man roster. We'll talk about what the projected starting offense and defense will look like. And we'll go a little bit into our matchup with the Giants leading into the following week where we get back into regular season form, where we do our key matchups and over-unders and X factors, all the different segments that we normally do every week. So we are gearing up. I was waiting for you to bring that one up, Jeff. The Junior Fajoko. So yeah. So next week is our last official preseason week. And then the week after that, we will be gearing up for the regular season. So if you haven't done so already, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. And feel free to join us every Wednesday night at 8:30 Central Standard Time for the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I'll probably try to bring a guest in next week to talk some Cowboys football. And then the first week of the season, because it's week 1 and it's rivalry week, we'll probably have the co-creator of the DC4L Facebook group, Amanda Foster, joining us. And you guys know when Amanda joins us, that always means there's going to be some great prizes and giveaways. So make sure you guys tune in for that. I have, I believe, 4 fantasy drafts between now and September 6th. So I'll probably be going live during all my fantasy drafts. So if you guys are interested in fantasy football and never played, or you want to help me pick my team, or you want to just talk some Cowboys football, I'll be here at least 4 more times between now and regular season for fantasy drafts. So feel free to join me for those shows as well. Normally when we do our fantasy drafts, I do a lot of fantasy drafts with other content creators. So if you guys want to see some other content creators like the UK Cowboys or my guy my boy Cowboys y'all Lambo, and you want to talk football with them, they'll probably be joining me as well. So we got a lot of football to talk, a lot of fantasy to talk. And again, you can join me every Wednesday, 8:30 Central Standard Time for the Fifth Quarter Podcast. Thank you guys for joining again. Great dialogue. This show is fueled by Fifth Quarter Nation, and you guys really brought it today. So thank you for that. Not if I had 1,000 picks, I wouldn't make that draft pick, Stephen White. So thank you guys for joining. Really appreciate all your support. And as always, let's go Cowboys. I'll see you guys next week.